Welcome everybody to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, ADHD and attention coach, 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒. I get a lot of questions or comments on our YouTube channel, and I get a lot of questions in coaching, wanting help getting out of bed. Seems interesting, getting out of bed. Really, so kind of a want thing when you think about it. Do I want to get out of bed or do I not want to get out of bed? A lot of times you want to get out of bed, but you're not getting out of bed. Why is that? Well, maybe you're tired. I say that because we are humans and we tend to make observations based off of what we can see. And we watch behavior. And if I'm not getting out of the bed, how can I get out of bed? But if you think about it, often you've got to kind of go think about what's the root cause. And sometimes you're not getting out of bed because you really don't have anything to look forward to that day. That's kind of a different story. But most people with ADHD, I find the reason they're not getting out of bed is they're sleep deprived. The reason they're sleep deprived is their brains are up entertaining themselves at night. I said this before, is that if you read out there, when you put your head on the pillow, it should take about 15 minutes for you to fall asleep. And that 15 minutes is agonizingly boring for people with ADHD. We've talked about boredom before. They're physically uncomfortable being bored, so they leap up and they do something to entertain their brain, whether it's get on social media, watch YouTube videos, watch movies, talk to friends, play video games, or whatever. So what happens is they're engaging their brain, and there's a lot of people with ADHD, is they just pass out of exhaustion. They just collapse. And the issue really of getting up in the morning is a function of self-regulation at night. Now, every once in a while, I'll have somebody, but I went to bed early last night. This is where my experience kind of comes in. As an athlete in college, high school and college, I was an internationally ranked swimmer. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you watch the Olympics or anything like that with swimming, there's a resting process that takes place. We call it a taper. I used to swim about 15,000 yards a day. And over a 3-week period of time, I would reduce it down to 1,500 yards a day. So that's 10% of what I was doing before. And even in that 3-week period, I'll never forget my junior year in the 100 backstroke, I dropped like 2 seconds at Big Tens. That's a lot of time for 100 backstroke, which is less than a minute. Then I rested another week and I dropped another half a second. Then I went to NCAAs and I rested again another 10 days, I think it was, and dropped another half second. So I dropped 3 seconds. Here's my point. Rest takes time. It's not something. Rest and recovery is not like I go to bed tonight and I'm good for tomorrow. In fact, I remember in my adult career doing triathlons, and I'm a sprinter by nature. So my best work is 45 seconds to a minute, and do a triathlon that's an hour is not my thing, but I still can do it and I can compete. And I remember there was a lot of people that I used to train with that could kick my butt, but I would beat them in races because I knew how to rest. Let's bring this back to ADHD and sleep. The challenge of most people getting up in the morning is actually getting to bed in the evening, right? Your brains are trying to entertain itself, and it does it over and over and over. People talk about sleep hygiene, all that kind of stuff, but I've talked a lot about before is if you're going to get to bed early or on time, you need to find something to engage your brain that's interesting enough that it captures your attention, but not too interesting where your brain won't surrender itself to sleep. So I've worked with people where they played solitaire with actual cards, or adult coloring books, or doodling, or different types of activities. What's going to work for you is as individual as you are. But let's go back to getting out of bed and getting more. That's what this is all about. You can set 2 alarm clocks. You can do all kinds of things, but usually the root cause of the problem is not getting to bed, and the symptom is entertaining your brain. And the idea really here is what you need to do is recognize that and try to find an activity to calm your brain down at night that's engaging enough. So if you think about it, focus in on that, you might get to bed, you might get caught up in sleep, and you might have an easier time getting out of bed in the morning. I realize it's easy for me to say. It's difficult for you brains out there to kind of do that when your brain is screaming, I want some fun to do. But that comes down to self-awareness. So with that, if you're new to our channel, please subscribe. Our button, we always like that. Our existing viewers, please comments, thoughts on this. And then finally, we do what we do for you. We'd love support from our channel if you click the thanks button down at the bottom. With that, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.